CEO and founder of socialchefs.com. And this is episode 189. We've got a great show for you today. It's myself, Phil Gerbershak, and guest Chelsea Peitz. We've had Chelsea on a number of times actually on the show. So it's always great to have her back. She's very knowledgeable. She works in digital for real estate. So, you following her on Instagram. She's very active. So I'm going to go ahead and just pop on and say a quick hello. Hey guys, how you doing? We've got a great show for you this week. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Phil, how are you doing this week, actually?
Hey, Christian. I'm doing great, buddy. It's great to see you again. It's coming to you live from Wisconsin today instead of from Tampa. I spoke at Midwest DJs Live this week, and it was a fantastic event. Great group of people.
Fair enough. We'll have to talk more about that, fill us in on
Sure.
What the audience was like, what the event was like. Good to see you as well. Hope everything is going great for you. And, it's good to have you back this week. So we had a busy week last week, and we talked a lot about Instagram testing, removing likes from posts, have people focus more on the content and focus on, hey, this post only got 5 likes versus, however many, 200 likes or whatever number you want to put there. But we've got a great guest this week. We got Chelsea Peitz on the show. So I'm going to bring on Chelsea. Chelsea, how are you doing?
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Great to have you on again. So we've got quite the spread here. So you guys are back in the States. Let's see. Phil's in Wisconsin. You're in, where are you at now? Arizona, right?
Arizona.
Mhm.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for joining us for this show. We're talking about Instagram, but if people want to ask questions or connect with you, and we'll talk about this obviously at the end. But if they want to connect with you, what's the best place for them to do that? Maybe they would do that now, since while we're getting going.
Yeah, I'd love for them to connect with me on Instagram. You can find me by my name. It's right here on the screen. It's chelsea.peitz. Send me a direct message. Love to chat with everybody there. So see you on Insta for sure.
Awesome. So Phil, where do you want to start this week? I mean, we talked about this earlier. We got a lot of updates from Facebook's F8 conference. Got a couple of Instagram updates. But where do you want to start? Well, I'll set up a couple of things here.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to start with what Facebook is doing because they've made a ton of changes. Folks that are watching, right there, Chelsea even posted about they're changing even the words we can use to get people to comment on our stuff and to share things. They're actually listening to the words, which I find super fascinating. But the biggest change that most people are going to see immediately is the way that the app on your phone looks almost exactly like Instagram does, with almost no, it's almost the same. So I don't know, Chelsea, do you have the new version, or is it already rolled out to you as well?
Yes, I have the new version. And I remember I woke up in the morning because, it's the first place I go. And I'm like, oh, I thought I was in Messenger for a second. Like it was just so different to me that I was like, oh yeah. So it's much cleaner to me. You're right. I feel like they're really trying to morph the 3 major products to sort of look all the same kind of, I assume they're moving towards a much more unified product with which they talked about specifically for Messenger. But yeah,
Right.
I actually really like it. I had people that were totally offended and didn't like it and were like, wait a minute, I don't know what's going on. And I liked it. So I'm all for it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think some people just like to complain because it's changed.
That's true. They do.
Yeah. So Christian, do you have the new one, bud?
I don't have it yet, but by the way, do you want to tell people like what has changed here? So
Yeah. So let's talk about it, right? So we take the top of the screen, right? The logo is now in the upper left. Now you have to search for stuff. They've hidden birthdays on the event, so you have to search for birthdays now if you want to find people's birthdays. I found that interesting. And then the stories is if you've got about 4.5 inches on the screen, the story is almost like 3/4 of an inch to an inch big. So it's almost impossible to ignore. And as they've talked about, right, the future of Facebook is private. So that's not surprising. I mean, they said they're going to push us there. I was curious how they were going to do that, but I tell you, you can't miss it. And yet, interestingly enough, people do. They still don't click on stories. They still don't get it. they still aren't there. So that's fascinating to me, especially brands aren't making stories. So it's interesting. I don't know. Chelsea, are you using it for real estate to promote some stuff too, or not yet?
So I am a stories freak. Like that is my jam. I told people start using Facebook stories when they first came out, like free branding. They're going to push people there. It's going to be the top of your screen. Well, mark my words, they will put stories in the feed to get people to go to it. What I think is interesting is that, people don't read between the lines as to like what's happening. Yeah. Facebook actually tells you a lot about what's going on. Y'all, they are a for-profit company. They're making a lot of money on ads, and they have said, they literally said, it's documented, we're going all in on stories, which means we don't know how to make money there yet. For Facebook to go and move their business plan to a product that they cannot monetize yet, you guys, hello, wake up. Like the future is stories of Facebook. And you're right, people haven't caught on. And I tell people, it is not saturated yet. This is like if somebody said there's this thing called YouTube coming out like 10 years ago, everybody would have jumped on and made a channel. So I'm all about it. I love it. I think the product psychology is there, making people with that call to action with your picture says add story. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time. I don't think they're going to let this one go. And I'm okay with that.
Cool. Christian, what about you, buddy? What do you think about stories? Are you moving more all in on that or what?
I love it. I think the key thing is going to be just the design aspect of it. Getting people, for instance, are they all in on mobile, or are they primarily on desktop, or they're using tablets? I think that there's got to be tools that are going to make it easy for people to create that content. I think the hardest part is, for example, if I'm on mobile, like it's easy. I can I can quickly grab something off my camera roll. Maybe there's an app I'm going to use. But I think desktop need a little something if they want people to be able to use that. I like cloud syncing for a lot of things. I don't think it works well for everything. People don't really, they don't subscribe to like, high bandwidth internet, for example. So therefore, maybe it takes a long time to sync things, or they don't really understand the sizing of things. There's a lot more to the design aspect. But I like the idea of pushing people here. I mean, this is a big push, a really big push. And I have right here on the screen, I have the redesign for desktop. So I like the idea of this, that people want stories, that Facebook wants stories. They want groups as well. And I think part that I think is really interesting, Chelsea, you mentioned a minute ago, is just monetizing that. How are they going to do that? Because people, they don't really want to. I mean, it's not like the content on stories is going to be very long, but they also don't want it to be very, they don't want it to be too like, ad heavy, I guess, in a way, because then that could be a big turnoff for users, because it's easy to scroll past. Versus with stories, you don't really know what's coming next.
But I think that's okay, right? I mean, I think the serendipity of it actually is what makes it exciting and gives brands an opportunity to play. Like if they stand out, serendipity is going to help them a lot, right? Because that surprise and especially if they really try to surprise and delight, the relevancy is there, unlike anything else that we've ever seen on Facebook. But my question that I'm going to be curious about is, it's only 15 seconds. Is 3 seconds does that really show that I'm interested? Or was I picking my nose and I forgot to go skip your story? I mean, that's that, right? Like, what am I doing here? I don't know. With 15 seconds per clip at the max? I don't know. Chelsea, what do you think about that?
I think that we're going to see a whole lot of metrics and analytics coming out about DMs. I think that's the way that you have to track it, and rightly so. Because that's where the conversations and the conversions happen. It's all in the DM, which is, why Messenger is going to be huge. That's why stories matter, because it's camera first, message enabled, private environment. There's no metrics, which I know you talked about recently on, Instagram testing that. That's why people like it. They just don't realize that's why they like it. But I agree. I think that, yes, of course, this is the nature of stories, is tapping, 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 tapping. I don't think that's going to change. Just like I don't think people are going to not like Instagram posts that don't have like count, because we go like this, double tap, scroll, and we're just doing that thing. So I think it's more that we're going to have to look at different kinds of metrics, which really matter. And for me, that would be direct messaging or link clicks or stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, strong call to actions for sure. Hopefully they lower that limit down for some of these. But I mean, that's the thing. 10,000. You're almost begging people to buy likes to get to 10,000.
Exactly.
But then it tips. But man, it's really hard. The only person that I've seen that does even a half decent job at getting people up there naturally and organically is Raul Colon. He does a good job of that. But otherwise, like almost nobody. It's very hard on a branded, on a branded Insta account, even a branded Facebook account, right? How do we do that? And now they're removing likes. Man, like what? I'm with you, Chelsea, though. I think those metrics that you talked about, right? Those real calls to action, not just a vanity metric, is really what we're going to see measured.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool.
Christian,
okay, so
nothing
else I want to add, but okay, so that's I'm just checking out some things behind the scenes, by the way. So if you're watching on our Facebook page, if you're watching on facebook.com/socialchefs, let us know what you think about this new redesign. If you're checking us out on YouTube as well, let us know if you have any questions about this, if you have this new feature. We'd love to know that. I think overall, I think this is a big update. I mean, this design kind of actually looks like one we saw a few years ago when Facebook said, hey, we're going to roll out an easier design, and it never kind of came to fruition for a lot of people. So I like the clean look. I think they're going to have a dark mode as well, probably for this, basically where like it'll be easier. It might automatically switch based on the time of day when you're viewing things. But I think this is a big update. What do you think, by the way, about the update with this in terms of groups, pushing more group interactions? What do you guys think about that?
I don't know. I think it's tough, right? Because they're cutting off the names of the groups. They're not doing a lot of things to make it even easier for group managers to communicate with people. There's no group, like, unless you have a page, you don't have that messenger bot, right? You don't have that ability to message. So I think they're really pushing people to have their pages manage these groups instead of just people if you want to monetize the group.
Right.
And then they're going to force you to advertise because they killed the reach from us, right? Really, I don't even know how to unsubscribe to updates, but I sure don't. I sure also can't completely subscribe to every update because I don't see them. So it's like, okay. So now I got to pay to do this. And I don't know. It's interesting. Chelsea, what do you think about groups?
Yeah, I think that is interesting. I think that, kind of like you mentioned, sometimes when these new really awesome ideas come out, there's a little something in the background that, there might be, and I'm not going to say ulterior motive, but there's other motivations, we know pages have, been an issue with like the downranking content and how do we make sure that people are paying more. We talked about ads in groups at some point. I think they're definitely trying to figure out how they can connect the two, how they can, of course, monetize it. And, they realize people want to be in groups. And I think that them saying just the generic statement of, we're excited about community, we want you to be in groups, that's why we're bringing this. People are like, yeah, that's awesome, let's do it. But I think you have to be wary if you are a group manager, if you are a monetization in your group, if that's where you do your business, let's face it, a lot of people do their business in a Facebook group now, which is amazing. So I think this is more of an interesting, like, let's see what happens than this is so awesome, we're excited.
Totally agree. Good points. What about you, Christian?
So I think for groups, I love the idea, I love using groups. I think that's stuff, there's definitely a lot of interactions, but I think Chelsea's point, she made a great point earlier about how everything's moving to private messaging to where, like, if you're in groups, for instance, you can split that off into private groups as well, or group chats, I guess. So I think that groups are definitely going to be a good way to go. It's going to be interesting to see, do pages stick around or do they get rid of pages at some point? What do you guys think? Because what's that to Phil?
Well, you got to keep pages because here's the thing, right? Christian, you and I, social chefs, right? You can't just be you or me. You have to be able to hand that off to somebody else, right? That's
right.
But I really think pages end up being, sadly, almost like a group people, as opposed to what it is now, which is really a strong just advertising mechanism. So
what do you think,
as we move to stories, right? I think it's going to be consistent brand storytelling. So pages will have to be the focus of that.
What do you think, Chelsea? Any thoughts on that?
I think it's really hard. I think that pages didn't really turn out the way they had hoped years ago, right? And it was, and they fought this many years to have them. I feel like that must be a statement about, we got to figure out how to separate business and personal. We got to figure out how to do the ad piece of it. I'm not sure that there's a better way around it. I can't say that I'm super in love with my page, but I mean, like you guys, you do engage with people, you put good content on it. It absolutely can work. I mean, the idea that pages are dead and there's no use in having one is completely, untrue and unfounded. So I think that they haven't figured out a better way to do it. So I would be very surprised if in the near future pages go away. Maybe in the far future if they figure something else out. But I would be surprised. So all of you who abandoned your pages, you need to rethink that strategy.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's still tied to a profile. You have to have a profile to create a page, to create a group, and so forth. So, I mean, just bringing that up because, hey, it's another property, it's another place that somebody has to manage. And I think a lot of people still struggle, with, well, what do I post on pages? What do I post on, a group? And then, hey, what do I do for stories now? And then, hey, let's move it into a direct message. Do I do a chat bot? Like, what do I do here to kind of run that whole gamut? Because there is no, there's no recipe, no particular formula that says, hey, this is exactly how you do it, because every business tends to work a little differently. It works for some, it doesn't work for others. So, there's a lot to think about, I think, when you're developing your strategy. So, okay, so we got designs. Designs were a big thing. They were updated, obviously, at Facebook F8. Obviously, Facebook putting group first. We talked about that. We talked about stories. You guys, what else do you guys want to talk about from Facebook's perspective? Do you want to talk about, I don't think we should cover Facebook dating necessarily. Anything in particular, Chelsea, that stood out from Facebook F8 for Facebook?
Yeah, definitely not the dating part did not stand out. Yeah, that's interesting. I think the messenger part about just, combining everything into one area, which I kind of feel like, the only way I can kind of think of that is, the Pages app sort of like that, but I still don't find it super user friendly. So I have found myself toggling back and forth, talking to somebody on Insta and then talking to them on Messenger. And then we're having these different conversations with the same person. So that's interesting. I'm not super excited about the Messenger, video watch party type of, I don't do that anyway, but maybe that's just me. So maybe other people are super excited about it. I think it's obviously a stab to try to get into more of the Snapchat user base that may do more of that. Right. I think those were the main things that stood out for me. I mean, they talked about VR and all of that, but those, I'm not using that in my everyday biz.
Right. And I know we talked about this offline. I mean, we talked about virtual reality was another update, obviously, from Facebook, virtual reality and AR. I personally, I don't think that VR and AR are here yet. I mean, I'm glad they're selling Oculus Rift and whatnot, but you've got to, if I'm a business, I'm not using VR and AR to sell products necessarily. Not anywhere close to that. I'm still trying to get my online presence up or trying to get my website, for example, and kind of get that funnel going. So I love that they're
tackle voice before we do VR. That's even more attainable, I think, at this point than AR and VR.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not creating a virtual world, for example, kind of as we have this screenshot down here. I'm not creating this virtual world, and then, hey, I'm trying to sell products. I'm trying to sell ad space, for instance. Maybe that's, that's obviously way down the road. But yeah, that was definitely an update. What else do you want to talk about from Facebook F8? So obviously VR, AR, we talked about some design. Anything in particular, anything else you want to talk about Facebook? You want to move into Instagram or WhatsApp?
Yeah, let's move into Instagram. Let's talk about the changes on Instagram. The fact that they're connecting you even stronger with people, right, with your friends. Again, leading with story. That is the first thing in here. That is, I mean, you got to get on the bus, folks. If you're not doing stories, you got to get there because it's here. It's here. Now, that being said, right, if you're a business and you're like, crap, how do I do this? Just plan out your day. Right, plan out your day, plan out your content, and understand that I think, sadly, the real timeness of social is going to change, right? Because you can't be real time and run your business in social, right? That's just not, unless you hire someone, it makes it really stinking hard to do that. So you have to really plan that out. You got to think about, where am I going? What am I doing? What's the day look like? What's interesting to people? Even more important, why one of the apps we're going to talk about today is a content calendar app for social media planning, because folks need to do this. They need to do this. It's so important. So, so if you want to bring up the Insta, you got it. Cool.
Yep, got the Instagram one up. Yeah, and we have quite a few updates from Instagram. So Chelsea, do you want to tell people like what were some of the updates, the big ones from Instagram this week?
Yeah, I think related to stories, they are coming out with a new camera mode. It's a new look. Okay. It's, I think some people they probably noticed that there were some favorite buttons and some ones that didn't get any love. And they're like, hey, let's bring those a little forward and help people find them. I know they're trying to differentiate by saying, hey, we're not limiting you to having to start with a photo. You can kind of create just text, or if you want to do a polling sticker. So I think that I know I'll appreciate that because I'm a huge stories user, and any kind of extra creativity is great in that arena. They've added, new stickers, and I know that they've done a great job with the stickers. I've really enjoyed most of what they've added. They've added the polling and the quiz and lots more of what I call the engagement stickers, which do help train those people to sort of engage in a light way with you. And, the donation piece is one of those stickers where you can now raise money for charities that you are following, connected with, supporting, etc. And then I think the shopping was probably the biggest one. I think what people are looking for. I mean, talking about like the influencers who are working on that platform, Instagram's really the main platform that has supported influencers. That's why so many people left Snapchat. So I see that they're really doing a great job to like be able to bring them more opportunities to create money and sell products and all of that. I shop, I look on Instagram. I've actually never purchased anything directly from Instagram. My husband does all the time. I'm always like, what are these boxes coming from? He's like, oh, just scrolling through Instagram. So it'll be a much more seamless experience, which is kind of scary because it's sort of like me and Amazon Prime, where I'm like, it's so easy. I'm not buying anything. I'm just pushing a button.
So do we need to have him on? Like, bring him on and have him tell us how easy it is?
About his Instagram addiction, yeah, it is a shopping addiction of like new shoes that are coming all the time.
So I've got pulled up right now. This is the create mode, the new camera basically for Instagram stories. I love this idea of making it easier for people to not have to focus on, do I have to come up with visual's great, but do I have to come up with a photo or a video? Love that they're making it easy for people to quickly access these tools, add in certain stickers and whatnot. Like, I think it's great. I think it's a very, very, very good update from them from that perspective. Now, the shopping piece, I don't shop from Instagram. How about you, Phil? Do you shop from Instagram at all?
Totally do. Absolutely. So I get, let's see, I bought shoes. I bought shoelaces. I've got some crazy shirts. I got my favorite one is a Top Gun shirt that says Maverick and Goose 2020, bringing back that love and feeling. I love that shirt. So that makes me totally happy. Yeah. So I absolutely buy off Instagram, which is fascinating because I never do off of Facebook, but I totally do off of Instagram. And it's funny because I get retargeted in the same way. I get the same ad and I never buy it on the even though it's way easier on the desktop or way easier from Facebook. I almost always buy an instant. What's terrible is the browser, like the browser experience, it makes you single task, which is basically one of the things that, like a landing page, right? It is buy or die. You're going to buy this stuff or you're not going to, or you're just going to go away. What I'd like to be able to see is the ability to save an ad.
Yeah, like a wish list or something. Yeah.
Yeah, like an Insta wish list that's private to me that I could, because that's the one thing that, but at the same time, I mean, the real timeness of it, it really, that FOMO, if I miss that shirt, I'm not going to remember where I got it from. That's the other thing. Like, it's so weird. I have no idea how these, because it's not like they're brands. It's because they have good product.
That's what my husband says. Like, well, where'd you get this? He goes, I actually can't remember. And he gets frustrated because he wants to go find the thing again or the place. He's like, I wish you could save this. And so exactly what you said. Yes.
So that gets me to what I think is actually like, let's talk from a business perspective here. So a real easy win for a business would be to include, printed material, for example, or some sort of card or whatnot, about the product, for example, in their packaging, in their box that they send somebody. It might be like, for example, if I were the business, this is what I think they should have. I'd say, hey, you know what? If the person purchases off Instagram, they should have a card that they give out that has Instagram, for instance, that says, hey, thanks a lot for making the purchase on Instagram, for instance. here's a quick URL if you want to get back to our account, or here's here's our website URL, or wherever you want to drive them. But I think that would be actually a really good thing to encourage businesses to include in their packaging. And also, I think what they also should do is, to encourage, like if they have a hashtag that they run for their business, encourage people to, take a picture with the item and tag the business, include the hashtag as well. So this is going to encourage, some social proof for your business, but also help drive sales, because people are going to see other people using it, and wonder, well, hey, what company did that come from? And they're going to have the links and whatnot there. So I think those are some easy wins for a business to tap into shopping on Instagram.
Yeah. Well, and some do, but I think even better if we go one more step, and that is in the checkout process, ask people for their Instagram handle and then follow them.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Right? Because that's what I really want. Because I don't remember who I bought this from, but I tell you what, they follow me because I put it in checkout, then send me a note that says, hey, dude, can't wait. Your stuff's coming in 7 days, 10 days, 2 days, whatever. And then when it gets there, then that follow-up reminder, because a lot of people have their messages open. Hey, congratulations. It looks like it arrived today. What do you think about it? If you want to take a picture, here's a quick way to do it. Because while I like old school, I really like just keep me on Instagram. Like keep me there, right? Re-engage me. Hey, and now we're so excited. And then regram it yourself, post that to your story, how excited that I am to get my new shirt or whatever. And now, right now, I feel appreciated. Now I'm surprised and delighted, as opposed to, crap, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Yep. Very, very easy wins. I mean, you can use some of the tools we talked about. Like we've talked about, like Phil, we've talked about Pretty Links, for example, quite a few times. And that is a perfect tool, for instance, to also include on anything that you're sending somebody. I mean, it's basically a tool to make it easier for people to quickly access a full URL, a product, whatever you want to send them to. But, just by having a simple URL. For example, our show, you want to get the blog post recap, you can go to socialchefs.com/SC189. And that's going to redirect you to the, full blog post. So I don't have to give you a complicated URL.
Awesome. So Yep. And if you want email, right? If you want to get our daily email, you go to socialchefs.com/daily. You'll get the recap. You get all the good stuff. And then every day you get another new tip. That's at socialchefs.com/daily. And we'll also make sure that you know how to connect with Chelsea. You'll be able to connect with me, connect with Christian. And if you have questions, you can use email, because as Facebook has said, the future is private. So ask those questions if you're shy about posting on our wall.
So that was one update, obviously, from Instagram. What else do we have from Instagram? We have the new camera. We've got the shopping piece. What else?
Well, and we mentioned the stickers too, right? That's pretty crazy. So if you haven't looked at the stickers yet on Instagram, remember, you can always save the picture down after you add the stickers. You can always reuse it. That's the thing that a lot of people, I think, miss on, is they make this and then where did it go? Or they take a screen grab and now it's ultra low resolution. And then because remember, people are moving from mobile to the desktop and back and forth, right? So we save them, keep them there, use the stickers, make it fun, and then save stuff. I don't know, Chelsea, what's your favorite sticker?
So I don't use a ton of stickers. I use a lot of the, I don't use the poll because, again, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I like DMs, and I don't care if I get less DMs. I want more conversations. So I do ask questions a lot, and I do make people DM me. So I know that I'm reducing that engagement by doing so, but I want those conversations. I do enjoy, I tried the quiz one, which was kind of funny. I think if done the right way, and then it's not too much. I love the gifts. Like, who doesn't love the gift stickers? Like, they are life, everything. So I'm excited about that. I do love the question for live Q&A. I thought that was amazing. I thought it was so fun. I got a lot of people to join my live because they did ask a question and they wanted to see me answer it. So I would say using the question sticker for the lives is amazing.
Awesome. Christian, you got a favorite sticker?
Not in particular, actually. It really depends on what I'm doing. I mean, I really like the quiz stickers. We talked about them last week. I'm a big fan of the quiz stickers, but that's just because you can ask questions and use that to gather feedback to help grow your business. To me, that's really important. So
cool. Awesome.
So we've got. Was there anything else that was mentioned at F8, by the way, about any other Instagram updates? I know there's some WhatsApp news as well coming. Anything in particular? Anything else I've missed on that?
I think we crushed F8 for sure, man.
Okay, perfect. So the other update I think is important, I think, to really kind of talk about is Facebook. I'm already getting confused here. Instagram Creator Studio. What do you guys think about that? Creator Studio basically is a dashboard for Instagram users, Instagram content creators, basically. What do you think about the idea of Instagram Creator Studio?
Chelsea, I'll let you take the first shot because you're the creator here.
So, okay, this kind of reminds me of like Facebook Creator Studio, which I signed up for, and like that was basically, I signed up for it and I, had access. I didn't find anything like incredible about it. It was interesting. I think this is really more for the influencer who really needs to get a lot of analytics, and really, I understand why. I mean, if this is an influencer platform where people are making business decisions on hiring people and having information, you need to have those analytics. And likes isn't exactly the one you're looking at. Again, it's link clicks, conversations, buys, things that you're selling, and you got your shoppable posts and like how many people clicked and did that. So I think this will be great for those sort of higher level influencer type of accounts that really need some good data and some more intricate information that maybe they felt that, couldn't get as easily through the insights already on their business account. I have no idea what the criteria is to get access to it. I'm not sure that they actually said that. So it will remain to be seen what happens with those accounts, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think the Creator Studio is so it's available to some people. You'll see it. People are, for instance, are seeing it in the mobile app. People are seeing it, for instance, through desktop. So I don't think there's a specific way that people are getting access to it. I think the key thing for me here also is that like they're giving you a lot of insights that you can also get from your Instagram mobile app as well. So, granted, this is something that's kind of being tested. What do you guys like? Do you think this is going to be the bridge basically to go from, to getting people from mobile back to desktop? What do you guys think there? Like, to me, that's what it seems like. But
no, I think what it is, again, it's for brands and influencers and people that have to share this, right? So to prove that they're really an influencer and not someone who bought 10,000 likes, 10,000 followers. I really think that's what this is. That I would guess, first they make it available and then they allow you then to add like business manager, right? That you're going to add businesses that can do that so other people can advertise, so you can have more collaboration. I think that's what it is. I don't think they're trying to bridge Insta at all to the desktop. I think if anything, they're trying to make the desktop look more like the mobile experience. I mean, that's really the push. I mean, if you look, because most of us, we just look in the middle of the page. I mean, almost every page now is middle of the page. The sidebars, if you advertise on them or you have links, I mean, nobody clicks them. I mean, it's sad, right? Yeah. They don't. We're just middle people because, again, on our phone, right, it's, I'm swiping up, I'm swiping down. That's how this works. So I don't think that's a bridge, but I do think advertising is the big get here. As I hand this off, right, Chelsea's an influencer. I want to hire her. Well, Chelsea, how many, what's your real reach? What's your real call to action, right? Do people actually click? You have beautiful pictures, but does anybody actually click those? Right? Does that matter? Or are you just putting out pretty pictures, right? So I think this is really important.
Yeah, I would personally, I'd love to see a feature where, an influencer, for instance, had to go to like a certain screen, for instance, and to actually be able to give a business their true numbers, instead of trying to fake the account, for instance, that they have. Hey, I got a lot of followers. Like, hey, I photoshopped this image. Somehow have some sort of like a handshake tool or something where they could get this true information back to a business so that the business can actually, because here's the thing, I see a lot of businesses, they fall into the influencer trap. They bring on somebody as an influencer. They're not really an influencer, but hey, their numbers look great, but they don't really know that. And I'd love to see something like that, to see, to help them move the needle, because it's not just like a lot of people, they just think, hey, I'll throw money at something. And it's not necessarily going to it's not really going to help you win more business in a lot of cases. You're going to, grab more people. You're going to seem like you're going to have some people, but really nothing. I don't really see a lot happening a lot of times. What do you think, Chelsea?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you guys said. I don't think it's trying to like bring people back, to the desktop. I think that there's a lot of third-party tools right now that people are having to rely on, or companies or agencies to figure that out. And I mean, I'm sure that any platform would love to just have themselves and not have people have to rely on the extras to plug in and to pull out the data. Maybe it's something having to do, with Instagram, and they're really just watching that API right now and know that so many, if you have the API, there's other little ways you can get around it, which is why we're in the trouble we're in now with like the bots and the auto follows. So perhaps it's also a way to try to kind of corral that and keep it more manageable, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Chelsea. I think that's super good point. That third-party software is tough. Third-party software often confuses people because they don't have access. It's expensive. They don't know how to use it. I mean, one report, while it might look the same as another, might have completely different data. I mean, there's no standardization of any reporting, and I think this helps. I hope it does anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, do we have any other topics to talk about, or we're going to move to tool time? What do you guys think?
Let's move to tool time. What do you think, Chelsea?
Okay.
Let's do it.
Woohoo, tool time. So, hey, everyone. So we got 2 cool tools we're going to talk about today. Tools that can help you with your business. As always, these tools we play with, we check out, but we encourage you to check them out and play with them. And just know the goal here is just to bring you a tool that may or may not do something that you need. If you don't need it, skip it. But if you want to play with it, check it out. Check out the tools in tool time. So, Christian, which one you want to start with, buddy?
So let's start with Content Cal. So we talked about this earlier. This is basically it's a social media scheduling tool. It's also a planning tool, a full-on dashboard. Instead of having to go and manage multiple channels and go through all the different platforms to bring in your metrics, you can bring all of it into one place with Content Cal.
Awesome. So Chelsea, have you used this, or do you use a content calendar for your work, or for what?
I haven't used this particular one, but I thought it was really interesting as I'm looking at it because, I've been using, Trello for years, which certainly doesn't have all the bells and whistles of this. So I think any kind of organization or company or brand that is really putting out content really does need to schedule it. I mean, I talk to the individual person, the small business owner, entrepreneur. I'm like, literally just write it out somewhere, put it on a piece of paper if you need to, but you have to really plan the stuff. And so I think for a large scale content campaign, this sounds really, really interesting to be able to organize it. And especially if you have a team that can kind of just visually see where everything is playing out and be able to kind of get the whole story throughout the weeks and the months and kind of tie it all together. So I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, and it's also got a nice, in addition to like scheduling, it's got an approval process also built in as well. So it can also auto-publish based on certain criteria. It's got reporting. It's used by quite a number of companies as well. We've got BMW, University of Oxford, Honda, along with a couple of other ones. I mean, very useful tool, I think. Personally, I think every company, it doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur or a medium or large business, you should be using a scheduling tool. Don't drive yourself nuts trying to keep spreadsheets up, and whatnot. Like maybe use the spreadsheet to like keep track of all the stuff you post, but use the content calendar. It can make your life a lot easier. As far as pricing, by the way, for this tool, you do have quite a few options. You have the free version, you have a pro version, which is $12 a month. And also there's an autopilot version, which I found pretty interesting. It's about $400 a month, and it lets you basically have them do all the content creation for you. To me, that's pretty fascinating. What do you guys think about this tool?
Christian, I saw that autopilot mode. I got to tell you, for $400 a month, I don't know how often that posts, but that's super interesting because that's not that expensive. If you get all that reporting and you get that, I would expect that if they're really good and they're really creative, and I have not seen an account, just to be clear, not seen an account that they've managed, but I'd love to see an account that they manage and see, because for $400, if I make $1,000 in sales a month, $400 a month for something I don't even have to think about is fantastic, right? I mean, that would be really, really cool. Now, do I have that for me? No, I don't have that for me. I don't, but if I set up, let's say a Shopify t-shirt store, I could totally see how, I would basically, I might send in, here's all my designs, go nuts, like promote the crap out of them, right? Crank my stuff up. And I'd be curious how well they grow the accounts as well, if they just post or if they're doing some other stuff too, because that's really, again, $400 a month. Well, a lot of small businesses say, wow, that's a lot. Again, the goal, if this sells $1,000 a month, this could be a really good deal.
Yep. Absolutely. 100% agree with that. I mean, and you make a really good point there. If it's, if I'm over there trying to sell a physical product, for example, if it's like you said, t-shirts with different designs, I don't necessarily care what is necessarily being promoted. Obviously, maybe I do care a little bit if they promote the wrong, like seasonal item, for instance.
Sure.
They're promoting like Christmas and, January, February, or something like that. But I think overall, I'm thinking Christmas in July, that might work. But I think that if it helps me sell more products, like I, as a business, shouldn't care about that necessarily. So it helps, keep my plate clean. I can keep, doing all the things I need to do and let that thing manage itself. So I think it's very, very useful. And, for $400, you're not going to hire somebody for $400 a month in most cases to do your channel management. Definitely not going to happen. But that's tool number one for the week. I think it's a good tool. I mean, here's the thing. If you don't have, we talked about this earlier, if you don't have a strategy in place, now is a good time to stop. Like, in a way, I personally would say, hey, stop what you're doing. It's not like, if you're on the hamster wheel and you stop and you're not, because you're not really producing results anyway. If you stop, it's not like it's going to impact anything. So stop, fix it, get things right, get that strategy set up, and then get back on that wheel. And it won't be a wheel at that point. It'll be a road, a wide open road to where you can go wherever you want. Do you guys have any tips for viewers that might have questions about strategy? How do they create strategy, or maybe some adjustments they can do? Phil or Chelsea?
Yeah, that's like asking, like, okay, how do we start a brand? It's a big conversation. Right. I think
yes.
Simplify it into like 3 main steps that I usually do is, first of all, you got to go way back. You got to get really clear on what your value is and your unique value proposition. And you need to get really clear on who your niche audience is, because that's where you're going to create all your content from. And that's what your strategy comes from. So I see so many people that are like, well, I'm posting here and I'm doing this and I want to do IGTV and all of this. I'm like, well, hold on a minute. Let's like actually look at what is your goal? Like, who are you talking to? Look at what's in the past. Like, let's go through data. So it's really going way back one to square one. And then I think once you sort of attended to those items, then it's really about as simple as, honestly, if it's a piece of paper or if it's a system, like, let's talk about creating some ideas and check off the box. Does this speak to my niche audience? Is this yes or no? And then start a very simple plan and then actually doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good points. Yeah. And don't forget, like, what is your ultimate monetization strategy? How are you trying to drive this revenue, right? That's really, really a big thing. You got to ask that question. I mean, for instance, we've talked about, LinkedIn. AJ Wilcox was on before. LinkedIn ads are expensive, but if you're driving a $1,000, a $10,000 sale, $10 is not that much. If you're trying to sell a T-shirt, you shouldn't advertise a T-shirt on LinkedIn, right? So understand also, what is your goal, and then what's ROI look like? Right? What does it really look like? How many do you have to sell to break even? $400 a month. Again, if I'm selling T-shirts and I make $2 a T-shirt, I have to sell 201 T-shirts in order to make a profit. Is that even reasonable? Is that possible? Can I sell, can I get 10 T-shirts a day out the door? Do I have the fulfillment there? Right? How does this work? Right? Is there a drop ship? What else am I trying to do? Right? And I can't just push, buy, because nobody's going to do that. So unless all you do is advertise, and then Chelsea's husband and I will buy all your shit. That's just how it's going to work. So, yeah.
So that's tool number one. And then tool number two, and I think, Phil, you alluded to this one earlier, and this is Squadcast. This is a very, very fascinating tool. It kind of reminds me in a way of a live streaming platform, except it's for audio. But basically what Squadcast is, it's basically a way for you to remotely interview people for a podcast through basically the web. No extensions, no browser add-ons or plugins or anything to install. So what do you guys think about this one?
Chelsea, have you used this before? Have you been on a show with this?
I haven't used this one. So I do podcast. I've used Ringer, and I think maybe Zencaster was the other one I used. But it does sort of remind me of that. But I think that we're going to see so many more tools that are going to make podcasting easier. I'm just using the same one I've always used because they didn't have this before. So I think the easier you can make it, I like that you said, there's nothing to download, no plugins. I mean, it's like, when you were using Skype, it was like, well, if you don't have an account, you have to make an account and you have to send your info. And so it became a little cumbersome. So I think as long as it amplifies the sound level and quality, then great. It's got to be easy, but also have really good sound quality to have for the podcast. But this is interesting. Yeah, I was excited to see this one.
I was just on a show last week, actually, that I got interviewed. The episode hasn't dropped yet. Terry Pappy's Simplify and Multiply show, and she uses Squadcast, and I was like, wow, this is really simple, and I really like that. And so I can totally see how a tool like this is super useful because, I've interviewed people that they can't download a browser plugin. They can't use Zoom. They can't do any of that stuff. So this makes it dead simple. And I've listened to some of Terry's shows. I mean, she first of all, the show is really good. If you haven't subscribed to Simplify and Multiply, you should check it out. But in addition to it being good, the quality is good. Like, it's like she's sitting next to me, which I really dig. So it's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and basically, you have a dashboard that people log into. Phil, I don't know if you want to kind of explain to people how this kind of works.
Yeah. So basically you log in, you send a link out, and then you just show up.
Very simple.
It's really simple. I mean, it's not fancy. Now, of course, you can do more than that, right? But it's really slick. I mean, I like simple. I really like simple, and this is simple. I mean, I use Zoom for all mine, but I can totally, because I like video, because I like to broadcast my Facebook Live right away, and then I'll cut it down, and then I've got an audio podcast because I like multimedia, right? I want to create once and reuse and distribute many. So, but this is dead simple. You can plug this in. I mean, if you're not a nerd like me, you can totally use this. Super simple, and podcast for $20 a month. I really dig it.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, it's as simple as, for instance, if you want to do a live video, it's plugging in a webcam and an external microphone to ensure you get the best quality video and audio. In this case, it's audio. You plug in a high quality microphone into your laptop, for instance, your mobile device, and you just go into this and do the recording. So I think it's super, super, super handy. And as you mentioned, what is it, like $20 a month?
Yep, $20
a month, $200 a year. 14-day trial, for instance, as well. So if you're thinking, hey, I want to start a podcast, Chelsea, like when you got started with podcasting, like what all did, there's a fair amount involved, right? I mean, you need to get a microphone. You need to get some podcast hosting because you can't just like upload the file, for instance. So I'm not sure. I mean, you're probably easily you're definitely spending well over the $200 a year for that, for instance, for a good mic and hosting. Any other hidden costs there that, we haven't thought about? I mean, artwork, I guess. Yeah,
the artwork, if you're doing an intro, outro, maybe buying music, but it's all sort of a one-time, entry fee to the game.
Yeah.
The hosting is really the monthly piece there.
Right. Yeah. So, one host up to 3 guests, pretty simple HD video interviews as well. So it's very similar to Zoom in a way as well. But you get a wave option, you get an MP3 option, you can do your scheduling. I like the scheduling piece as well. You don't have to use a third-party scheduler or another scheduling tool. Do everything through there. I think that's super handy as well. But that's Squadcast. So that's the other tool that we had for you this week.
Cool.
So,
cool.
Very cool. So we're at the top of the hour. Is there anything you guys want to Chelsea, anything you want to any tips that you want to share with, with viewers?
So my tips are usually all about Instagram. I'm dropping an IGTV Instagram tip a week, if not more.
Okay.
I'm loving Insta over there. I would say, speaking of IGTV, it's one of those things where, it's kind of like Facebook Live 3 years ago. Now's the time to dive into it because like we talked about, people don't really get it yet. And giving you a lot of love on that feed if you do the preview option. So you can do a little video that's longer than a minute. You can opt to do a preview. It goes right into the feed. I will tell you, if you're obsessed about your grid, you have to be very careful about what your cover photo is. If you're using a third-party scheduler, like a Planoly or a Later or anything like that, it's not going to pull your cover photo. So I'm just saying, if that's important to you, you need to know those things. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you need to be thinking about it.
Definitely. Very cool. So where can everybody connect with you again? I mean, I know we talked about at the beginning of the show, but if they're catching the end of this, what's the best place for them to reach you?
Yeah, you can find me everywhere by my name, Chelsea.Pites. I usually would suggest people go to Instagram because they can see me on Instagram stories every single day and get to know me pretty well there. So I'd love to connect with them there.
Awesome.
Very cool. It's been a pleasure having you on. Phil, any parting thoughts?
Nope. Well, just want to say thank you, Chelsea. It was really fun to talk to you and learn from you. I appreciate you dropping some smart bombs for us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a really good time.
Thank you so much for joining us, Chelsea. So for those of you watching, we'll have a blog post recap that goes out tomorrow. You can get that by signing up for the daily newsletter, socialchefs.com/daily. We'll also have it up on the blog. And then we got another show next week as well. We've got Christine joining us next week. So it'll be on, I think it's 9:00 in the morning, but we'll confirm. But thanks a lot for joining us. We will see you all later. Have a good rest of the week and a great weekend. Bye.
Yeah.
See ya.